Peace, everyone, and welcome to the Memoirs of a Karmic Dynasty. I am your hostess, Joy Allen, and today I will be bringing to you polygamy and polyandry from the Memoirs of the Matriarchs. So, the Matriarchs, we're going to be here today discussing this topic. This topic was brought to you today from our mother matriarch, Salima Ellis, and I am your hostess again, Joy Allen. You can contact me on Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MKDTNT. And you could also support my Cash App. And more importantly, today I learned how to navigate um, my screen in real time and to share my screen real time, other than the PowerPoint that I'm used to. That's all set up and prepared and ready to go for the show. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and start with the definition of both polygamy and polyandry, and then the matriarchs will appear and we're going to proceed. So, first, we're going to look at the definition of polygamy before we begin. And polygamy, according to Wikipedia, is the state of marriage to many spouses. It's the practice of marrying multiple spouses. When a man is married to more than one wife at the same time, sociologists call this polygyny. And when a woman is married to more than one husband at a time, it is called polyandry. If a marriage includes multiple husbands and wives, it can be called a group marriage. We're not looking into that today. We're going to go ahead over to polyandry. And polyandry is a form of polygamy, which we already covered, in which a woman takes two or more husbands at the same time. Polyandry is contrasted with polygyny, involving one male and two or more females. If a marriage involves a plural number of husbands and wives, participants of each gender, then it can be called polygamy, group or conjoint marriage. In its broadest use, polyandry refers to sexual relations with multiple males within or without marriage. And again, this is from the Wikipedia article. And a few moments here. Okay, so right now we have our mother matriarch, Salima Ellis, joining us.
Peace and love.
And love, good to have you here. And I already shared with everyone that you are the one who brought this topic to the table that we're discussing. If you would share with everyone who you are and where they can find you.
My name is Mama Salima. You can find me on Facebook at Salima Ellis Facebook. I also have a homeschool called Universal Mind School of Evolution. That page is also on Facebook, and you can read some of the assignments and curriculum that I create from everyday life situations. I also have another page on Facebook called Pattern Masters, where I post videos like these that I find are informative and helpful to our people, and put the pattern of your life together. So blessings. It is a pleasure to be here once again with you, Matriarch Joy.
And if you would share with everyone what you had in mind when bringing this topic to the table and what the agenda is for today before we continue.
Okay, the agenda was that we are always talking about polygamy, but we're not practicing polygamy in its right way, and polyandry should also be of that practice. We have this double-mindedness in this society that all things are patriarch and whatever the man says goes, but obviously that's not true, or we wouldn't have this cheating and lying and sneaking and things like that going on. And I don't think people understand the benefits of polygamy and polyandry, and the benefits to the community and the benefits to the children, because we're so busy focused on that spouse and not sharing that spouse we don't understand that there are situations and that would actually benefit us as a society and as a community, um, in those surroundings of polygamy and polyandry. And we don't want to just look at the downside, because a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, men have always had two, three women, but it's always on the negative. If the women are fighting, if the children are being neglected, you aren't practicing polygamy. You're practicing deceitfulness and all other manners of things that are destroying your seed. You're destroying the mother of your seed. You're destroying the father of your children with lies and deceitfulness, because we don't know how to initiate polygamy and we don't know how to initiate polyandry. So there are some downsides when we're dealing with people who don't understand these concepts, but there are the upsides to creating a wonderful and beautiful community, should we be able to get past these patriarchal thresholds of this is mine, that selfishness that we have in our lives based on colonialism. Colonialism broke up our original households that often had two husbands, three husbands, and they often weren't sexual. There were some men staying around because they were beneficial. They didn't always have children, but they needed a community. There were women in the community that helped raise children. They couldn't always have children, but they were beneficial to the community. So when we get out of the mindset of, I don't want to share, because we obviously have to share when we're dealing with liars and cheaters, we can expand our community, and let's understand the benefits of polyandry and polygamy on both sides of the road, and not just see it as a patriarchal thing. Because we as women, we attract men that we don't sleep with, but some people will be like, y'all together all the time. You see what I'm saying? You have friends that just love you just that much. There are men who are surrounded by women that you would think that they were doing something, but they're not, because they love each other just that much. And that's how the community thrives. And that is a form of polygamy and polyandry. But because we're stuck on colonial monogamy, uh, we're defeating the purpose of building our nation.
That's peaceful. Gratitude. So D Calico is in the building, master student. Peace, D Calico. And he speaks of a lot of polyandrous relationships without the marriage, which matriarch Mother Salima had touched on. More Life is here. She speaks peace and wholeness to you as well.
Peace and love.
And before I go on to what I want to say, I'm going to share D Calico's comment. He says Yanni is acidic, so multiple male partners would be unsafe because sperm is alkaline and would off balance her pH.
I'm not going to speak on that.
Okay, what I'm gonna say to that right quick is a recap of what you've already said. Um, just because we are with multiple men does not mean that we having sexual intercourse with each one of them. So I'm going to touch on this right quick, and I'm going to go on to something else for now. Um, what was I going to say? Hold on here. Now, so this topic's something else. Okay, you know what? I might make an exception again and bring the masculine energy on here and send you an invitation. Now, what I'm going to share is when nations are built, when nations are in existence, each person has their role. Some men in this example, their role would not be to have sexual relations with the woman. So be mindful of that, and we're going to work with that, as well as vice versa in the polygamy area. When men have multiple wives, or partners, however you want to phrase it. He is not always sleeping with each one of them. He's not having sexual relationships with each one of them. So we want to work on that as being one of the topics of one of the aspects of ignorance when this topic comes up. I just want to put that out there. Okay, D Calico. So what I want to share, which is piggybacking off of everything I say, probably gonna piggyback because Mother Matriarch Salima has already presented the agenda. So I'm going to share this. Me personally, because people probably want to know what my take is on this. Me personally, um, I'm not for neither one. In life, I've not ever been, and for ignorant aspects and ignorance, and lack of knowledge, and some other type things, I'm not interested. Um, and due mostly in part to what has been spoken on. When for me personally, cheating has been a factor. So if I wanted to share, I would have done it in that manner. I would have allowed the cheating to continue. Also, when the man was not cheating, there's a reason he's not around today because there's some parts of him that did not compliment me. And so if he cannot last a few years or a few months with just me, there's no way he's going to be able to manage me and another woman at the same time because I'm a handful. I'm a handful. I'm simple, so to speak. It don't take much to for me to be satisfied with a man in overall compared to what I know a lot of men go through with their counterparts. I'm one of the less high maintenance, high responsible. I'm less. You got to deal with. I know this for a fact. Um, so with that being said, if he cannot handle my requirements, the things that make me comfortable, there is no way he's going to be able to manage me and anybody else. So with that being said, it's off the table for me. And again, with polyandry, when it's concerning me possibly having multiple husbands, partners, oh goodness. So again, so far, it's not been attainable with just one. I could not possibly see me doing, and I cannot be with more than one man at a time, period. It's not even possible because for me, myself, I'm in the process when I'm with a man to build with me and him, to establish me and him. And if me and him is not straight, if we don't have a foundation, bringing somebody else in, unless he would be a man to help us create that foundation, he's not even an option. And I'm gonna stop right there and pass the mic.
And I do agree with you on all of those aspects. This is why I often say that our people should be courting and not dating. Because when you court one another, you have an opportunity to actually get to know one another. And the courting should involve the family, which is why when the relationship is established, the family comes in with contracts and make sure that certain aspects of the contracts are fulfilled. We've stopped doing that. We get married. We go to marriage counselors, but the marriage counselor isn't there to watch your children. Your family is. If anything happens to the spouse, the parent of the children, the other spouse has to have a family support. The marriage counselor isn't there to do that for you. You see what I'm saying? So we have this thing where we've been totally relying on colonialism's viewpoint of what is marriage, what is family, and what is community. And we have been suffering as a people because we totally rely on that paradigm, that sort of speak when you did the pyramid for food and you said they put this disgusting thing in the pyramid. It's the same thing. They put that disgusting figure of what is marriage, what is rearing children, You know, what is community? And they gave that to us. And then we tried to fit within that paradigm. And it hasn't worked in the last couple of 100 years, because we have married men who are cheating. We have women who are cheating, and the children are being neglected. The children are in the middle of these fights because we are not practicing our natural state of being, our indigenous way of life. And that's what I mean when I say we have that colonial mindset. It's been into us. No, that's mine. I ain't sharing that. I ain't, no, baby, you can get your car ripped up, your windows bust out. So that's that colonialism for monogamy. And monogamy has not worked for us. Okay, because I'm a mother of 5 children. And one of my first husband passed. So at some point, I needed a male figure, because at the time I had 3 sons and a daughter who was going to come in and give them an example of this is what a male does. Because I couldn't only tell them how people should be, period. But a man can come in and say, this is how you do it. This is how you treat your. I mean, he came in, was like, you don't talk to your mother this way. So there were things that I realized that these aren't what you call baby daddies. These are fathers. See, and even sometimes they have a hard time sharing mothers when you have multiple fathers of your children. For whatever reason, they have to be able to share you. And often, even though you're not having sex with the last spouse, you see what I'm saying? That spouse you have now might have a problem, like y'all always talking. When we have children, we have to talk about their future, school, clothes, all of these things. So when you sort of think of it, you are in polyandry, even though you're not sleeping with that last spouse. That is the parent of your children. Yeah. So you have to deal with that spouse. And a lot of us have respectful, loving relationships when we're not doing anything. That's the father of my child, and I am their mother. And you love me because I'm a great mother. You see what I'm saying? And I put this into your child, to the child that we have. So that's what I mean polyandry. It doesn't always mean we're having sex. We're already in a certain community and in a paradigm where these things are being practiced. The point is, can we do it respectfully so that it benefits the most important people in that relationship, which is our starseed, which is our children. Right.
And I want to speak on what you say colonialism. Some issues I see with when people want to practice polygamy and or polyandry. These are some issues I see. This is an issue I see. The issue is this system has already presented the conversations for relationships. Until you can separate yourself from the system and the script that they have provided, it's going to be an issue. Right now, I'll say you can walk in the average household, and if a situation comes up, you can, if you are any part aware, tuned in, and or if you just be scientific with it and log in all responses, you will see the average responses. There's the higher percentage. I'd say 90% of the responses are the same, because they've received these scripts from the system, starting with movies and TV. The arguments that you see in homes looks like an argument you've seen in a movie, like almost word for word. When people work on, first of all, when it comes to etymology, and our brother D. Calico, he's a master student. Check him out. I work with etymology as well. When it comes to words, the first thing would be to know what you are saying. If you stop long enough and think about what you're saying before you say it, that's one step to interrupt and get rid of the script that the system has provided for when we communicate with each other, man and woman, woman and man, in those relationships. Second thing I would say, to me, it's like, I call it barbershop talk. You can walk in any barbershop in our neighborhoods, And I'm telling you right now, they have the same conversations in the average barbershop. First, and I'm gonna be transparent right here, and it's a few masculine energies in here, so y'all can correct me if necessary. They gonna talk about for that day. Now you might not walk in when this happens, but during that day, sometime that week, I promise you, a religious leader has walked in there, a pastor, a minister, any religious figure. And so y'all talk about religion for a little bit. Y'all sit and talk about cars and motorcycles and who's selling one and where you can buy it and where you can find it and what model in that, what model is that, what make is that. Then there is the woman who come in the barbershop, somewhat like me. I take my son in there to get his hair cut, and the men turn, they want to talk and check us out and talk about us, or they talking about sports. But right now you might not see that with the atmosphere of this COVID crap. But anyway, people still talk about sports regardless of if it's on prime time or not. So to me, that's the same thing that happens in relationships. The people talk about the same thing every day. They talk about, in average households, what they gonna eat. They're gonna talk about what's up with the children. They're gonna talk about entertainment, what you want to do tonight, what's for fun. They're gonna talk about sexual relationships, who's getting some, which partner's not satisfied, which partner's doing all the work in the bed. They're going to be talking about these things, and they're going to be talking about bills. The one partner always going to have an issue with the bill, and or if not both of them. And I promise you, with these relationships and these conversations, the average 90% of them look the same. So we have to work on knowing that things like fun, and I covered that in one of my etymology classes, fun needs to be canceled from relationships, period. There is a thing called building that must be established. There is a word called nations that must happen. And there are foundations we must create to move forward. And it does not include fun. It's called building. And while you're in the process of building, you will enjoy yourself. There's things like bills. Bills should not be a stress factor in the household. It shouldn't be. If you're gonna be in this type of relationship, and I know things happen, but finance stability should be established beforehand. You do not jump into these relationships and then want to grab 3 or 4 partners and you can't even take care of yourself. And when it comes to finance, though, I'm a cosmic currency type person, so I'm not never worried about any fiat ever. The cosmics pay my bills. I have cosmic currency, and my cup runneth over, for sure. And when it comes to children, that topic and religion, all that should not even come up, because if you in this type relationship, religion shouldn't be an issue, because y'all should already have that established before you get into that. And when you're courting, such as the mother matriarch Salima mentioned, and you bringing the family in, everything is established before you have sexual intercourse and call yourself creating a relationship, whether it's polygamy or polyandry. And I'm going to fall back. I digress. Matriarch Mother Salima, you have something for us?
Actually, you really hit the nail on the head. We're dealing with people who are already so programmed. When their conversation is like that, that is not the person for you. And like I said, those are the people you date. You go out and have a fun time with. When we're dealing with polygamy and polyandry, you're courting. Because like I said, courting is a process where the whole family should be involved. The mothers, your parents who will be grandparents of the children, your brothers and your sisters who will be aunts and uncles, they all have to sign off on the contracts, and that this person is going to fulfill these contracts. Also, when you're courting someone, if they have not established themselves in the community that you are someone that the community can turn to and that you put in work in the community, that person is not for you. If they are all about the bling and how they look and how sweet they sound, that person is not for you when you're talking polyandry and polygamy. So we have to deal with people who have a certain state of mind that people often don't have. They don't have that maturity to see beyond the 3D veil, so to speak. Because I know when I was coming up as a child under a patriarch Muslim father, he cheated on my mother. Now my thing was when I would listen to my mother, she was like, he don't even have to do this. I'll be needing a break from him. So we like I'm 48 now. So you don't have to cheat on me. I don't want to be up under you 24 hours a day. I've been on the farm. I'm creating curriculum for my students. I have a life. I have a life. So there is no maintaining except for making sure I can fulfill my deeds within that community. And that's the most important part we don't connect to because we're too focused on that physical sexual act. But if we can get out of that, we can actually build something. It's like I said, I'm 48. And even in my 30s, I was like, I don't want to be up under you 24/7. I'm homeschooling. I'm volunteering. I'm farming. I'm doing things within my community that need my attention. So I'm not the type of woman where I live a kind of lifestyle where I'm always sitting up waiting on you to service me. You see, because I'm busy, I'm in the community fulfilling my matriarch goals, okay, which is educating my community, educating my family, growing food, being agriculture. I'm doing herbalism. I just sold a product today. You see what I'm saying? So I'm busy. I don't need 24 hours attention. My children don't need 24 hours attention. They busy. I make up the list when they get up. All they could do is look at me and roll their eyes. They got stuff to do. So when you live a life of, I guess the word is leisure, you might need that kind of attention. But when you're someone who looks like me, if that's what you choose, that's all, that's good. But true indigenous women have something to do because we educate our own children. You see what I'm saying? We educate our communities. I'm a herbalist. Saturday I have a medicine making session where we're teaching other women in the community, this is how you do herbs, this is how you create tinctures, this is how you create salve for bug bites. So I'm busy. I don't need to see your beautiful manly face 24 hours a day. What I need you to do is fill in to help make sure I fulfill my requirements of building my community. And there are times when I'm in bed 9:30, 10. I'm tired after the day I've had. You see what I'm saying? So we really have to change our mindset. We have people, like you said, we have reality TV. And that's how you hear the women talk. That's how you hear the men talk. And it's so disheartening for me to hear that because it's like, that's not even real. These people don't even realize how far in depth they're being programmed out of themselves. You talk to such and such. You looked at such and such. Okay, look, like I said, I'm a mature woman. I am not blind. My Baba knows not to go crazy. That man ain't coming home with us. You see what I'm saying? But we're so immature mentally. We're so immature emotionally. We're so immature intellectually. And that makes us immature physically. We don't know how to control our physical reactions to honest to goodness, real life reactions. So we have to take that time and rebuild ourselves. I had to take the time to rebuild myself. I was in a situation many years ago with a young man that I loved dearly, but anatomically, physically, we could not do anything for each other. I said, listen, you need another woman. And he thought I meant something freaky, but I'm like, no, there's nothing I can do for you physically. You need somebody that can help you with that, And he thought it was a put down, but it wasn't, because he was a beautiful man, but he was like 6 feet 4, I mean, there's nothing I could do, but intellectually and spiritually, we were vibing. And when I needed something done in my community, he was there always to make sure I fulfilled those needs. So I wasn't selfish enough to be like, oh, he just gonna be mine. And no, he's gonna to have some kind of physical need met at some point that I couldn't do for him. So he wasn't mature enough to understand that I was trying to look out for his needs. He just thought I was like ready to pass him along, but that wasn't it. I live in reality, and the reality says, I love you this way, you love me this way, but you need another partner that can help you with the things that I can't help you with. You see what I'm saying? Because in reality, I felt so well taken care of by him that I was on high all the time when we were together. But there were aspects of our lives that I could not fulfill, that he could not fulfill for me. And that wasn't a negative thing. That was just our reality. Mm-hmm. So there are times when you look on your reality, like, are you going to make your partner suffer? Or are you going to work out what needs to be done so that everybody in the situation can be fulfilled? And often we don't have that mindset. We're like I said, we're not sharing. We have the colonial mindset. And that's how the colonialists were able to come in and dismantle our communities and say, a real man is out his mama house. Why? All over the world, the Asians, they marry their wives, they bring them home. In India, they marry their wives, they bring them home. And Africa, or not Africa, there's no such thing as Africa, but Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, they marry their wives, they bring them home. The family is there to support you, to help you grow your wealth when you are ready. They're there to help you, support you. They got our people out of it. They got our people thinking, oh, that ain't no real woman. She living with her mama. He living with his mama, his parents. We have been our minds have been thoroughly reprogrammed, and it has destroyed us as a community and as a nation. So yeah.
Yes, and I'm going to, right now, I got two topics I want to go more into. I think briefly we're going to touch on this first one. I think we're going to be more involved in the second one. First, I do want to talk about when he lives with his mama or his grandmama and them, and or her. But I'm speaking from my perspective. So that there's a difference between you living with your parents or you living with your elders or anybody else to assist them. And you're in the community, as mentioned, and you're building, and you're being a responsible man. That's different than a man laid up on the sofa all day playing video games, can't keep a job, don't know where half his kids is at, don't know which woman he want to hook up with tonight. There's a difference. So when Mother Matriarch spoke of he need to get up out that house, it depends on which he or she you speaking about, because those are two different types of beings right there. You want to talk about that anymore?
Yes, I do, which is why courting is important. Because when you're courting, you get time to find out whether or not he's the type playing Xbox all day, laid up on his mama's couch. He don't cook, she cooking. He doesn't clean, she cleaning. She doing his laundry. That is not the type of individual you want to parent your children. That is not the type of man you want to have influence over your starseed, over your male children. So there is a difference. Just the same way you don't want a woman who's living at home with her mother. She doesn't cook. She only does takeout. She doesn't clean. Her mother cleans. You see what I'm saying? Or she's spoiled. I love some of my people, but they've taught our children, as long as they get good grades, they don't need to do nothing else. They ain't got to do nothing else. But then you're basically teaching your child that as long as you think they got it up here intellectually, I don't have to cook behind or clean or grow food or keep learning. There's something wrong with that aspect, that we are defeating the purpose of raising a well-rounded being. Because I have sons and they know they have to cook. They know they have to clean. They know there is no lay up and play video game. Like I said, I don't even have a television in my home. And my sons are 30, 22, and 21. And they left home quickly because they realized, well, it doesn't, I'm grown now. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm 48 and I'm still reading, writing, and learning. I cannot do what I do if I don't take the time to read, write, learn, consume, which is consuming knowledge, so that I can produce knowledge. So we have this paradigm where we're still in this patriarch, where we're teaching our sons, you don't have to do that. That's the woman's job. And that's not true. Because if something happens to the woman, then what happens to the child that depends on that patriarch? They're in trouble. Or they're always at grandma's house, or they're always at auntie's house, because that man can't cook, can't clean, can't create a curriculum. You see, so we're not creating the well-rounded individuals we need to create a nation. We are always talking about nation building, but what does that look like? You see, and when we are sending our children to colonial schools that don't prepare them at all for anything. And then if they're not being prepared at home in the proper way, you're not building a well-rounded individual. You're not. So when we talk about, so when I mention these other countries, they are preparing their youth for that. You see, they know they don't sneak off and go get married. They bringing that wife home, that young lady home, because she's going to be in the home. The mother has to approve of her. The father has to approve, so that you can have a peaceful home life after you get married. You see, we have people in this country that sneak off and go get married and then be wondering why don't nobody want to be bothered with you. Why you sneaking? You see what I'm saying? Or we have these tumultuous relationships where we're always arguing and fighting, and we don't want to take a step back and ask our matriarchs and patriarchs, look, what's going on? Because I like this person, I want to get married, and they're going to tell you the truth if that's what you really want. So we have this paradigm where in this country they've separated the matriarch and the patriarch, and they separated the youth from the parent. If you ever get a chance, I don't know if you get a chance, there's a book called The Dumbing Down of America, of the American Students. It's by Charlotte Itzerby. And she was a part of Ronald Reagan's cabinet for the education, Ministry of Education. And they knew when they were coming out with these computers and laptops and things. Well, back then it was the bulky computer and the cell phone. They were going to start initiating the cell phones. They wanted to make it so addictive that nothing could come between the child having a phone or a computer, other than the fact that they just didn't have the money for it, because the parent wasn't going to be able to keep the child off the phone and off the computer. You see, so that's the kind of mindset that we're dealing with. You've seen the news where we had children that attacked their parents because the parents relinquished the cell phone. You're doing something you're not supposed to be doing on this phone. Pictures, talking to people we don't approve of, having relationships with people we don't approve of. You see, and my daughter's 17, and at night, I still collect her cell phone because you shouldn't be on it after a certain time.
Right quick.
Yes, okay. The deliberate dumbing down of America. Okay. And this woman was a part of Reagan's education cabinet. And this is the part of where you think you're getting an education because you're using technology, but really the technology is just a regurgitation tool to regurgitate what they're teaching you. So that's that childlike behavior, that if they can't be without their phones, they got to play on these computers all day and all night. There's something wrong with that picture. So like I said, we're not raising well-rounded individuals. We need to create the pyramid for parents and said, this is what you need for a well-rounded, to create a well-rounded parent. This is what you need to create a well-rounded person that helps to build up their community. This is what you need to help build up their home. These are the things we aren't giving our children. And that this is the mothers and fathers of Indigenous people. That's our hardest job. We have to fight against the tide of know-nothing people to raise our children correctly. Because trust and believe, often I've had my daughter, I want to go over there, I want to go do this, I want to go. No, you can't. That's not going to be part of your life's path. And they make that look so good. They make, when you see the commercials for iPhone and Samsung phones and being able to do this and selfies, they're creating a culture of self-absorbedness within our community, within our children. So we have the hardest job as parents to raise a well-rounded individual that can go against the tide of what the colonialists want us to be, which is enslaved in the mind. And if you ever get a chance to read that book, you will find out just how deep the enslavement of our children, when we put them in these schools, how deep it goes.
Very good. So now I want to go on to this next topic. And first though, I like how you transitioned the child rearing topic in there. That's important. And we might even touch on that again, because as we know, the children are the most important part of nation building, I would say, if not the most. Okay, so next I want to talk about sex in these relationships. So from TV, I know about, from TV, I know that when it comes to the partners in the relationship, the wives or the husbands, that there is a sex schedule. So there's one night with one wife and or husband, and et cetera, et cetera. And then there's, depending on the amount of wives or husbands, it allows for a night where the primary spouse, the husband, the husband or wife, has a night just to themselves. With that, I also want to talk about some of these relationships. So let's go with polygamy. Let's go with polyandry right now. So the wife has multiple husbands. She has 3 that she has sexual relationships with. So she goes to the one husband's room on Monday, the other husband's room on Tuesday, and the other one on Wednesday. And the rest of the other days she has to herself. I also have seen on TV that some situations each husband would have his own house on the property. So can we talk about the sex schedule?
The sex schedule, first of all, cannot come into play unless everybody, like you said, has their own dwelling.
Okay.
There is something about maybe hearing your partner with another partner. You don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. That creates conflict in the home. So when you're dealing with that, you have to be careful at all times. And you have to make it clear that, and it's the same with polygamy, you should have your own dwelling. When you have your own dwelling, this creates a responsible atmosphere for the children. You will have less tension in the home because everybody was raised differently. having your own home is essential. That's the best way I can put it. I don't
Mhm.
care if you have a bunch of tiny houses and have one big community house where you all meet up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, school, whatever it may be. That's the best solution for everybody. Because when you have people on top of each other, that creates conflict because you're still dealing with the individual. The individual helps create the community. So the individual has to be respected. So, and I coming up under people who practice polygamy and polyandry, the one mistake I can say that they always made was that they weren't living in their own dwelling. Where I saw that if they had their own dwelling, a lot of the conflict would have been cut down because, like I said, the children are the most important aspect in polygamy and polyandry. There are benefits, and one of the benefits is that there cannot be a lot of conflict. So if we're all on top of each other with just a room, that's not good enough. I might cook different. You might have a spouse that cooks meat. I don't want meat in my home. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So when we talk about polygamy and polyandry, we have to really understand that we want our own spaces. Your own space is very important. So when you have those nights with that spouse, that's your night. You don't have to worry about if you're offending another spouse. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about if you're offending a partner because you're in your own space. And that's one of the things that I always loved about polygamy was that I'm in my own space. I'm not crowding out this other sister or her children. She's not crowding me out with my children, because like I said, we're all different and we all have different requirements. So when we're within that atmosphere, it is important to have your own space. And we did that before. We had our own space. You had your own hut, I got my hut. So whatever's happening over here can't bother you because it's happening over here. You see. So when we talk about creating the sex calendar, actually there is no calendar. There is the calendar is really based on the children's birthdays. Those have to be attended. You see what I'm saying? Because you can make up a calendar for sexual relations, but someone might get sick. So you're not even doing it that night. You're really just there taking care of that partner because they don't feel good that night. So when we talk about a calendar like that, that's kind of unrealistic unless you have a partner where you're saying, I want to be pregnant during this time. I want to have a star seed during this time. Now you have a calendar, okay? But the realistic is it's hard to stick with calendars with children, even when you are monogamous. You see what I'm saying? You think you about to get down, your baby in the next room throwing up. So that's an unrealistic thing to think. Now, maybe when you're single, when you first hook up, you can do that and there are no children involved. But once children are involved, that's not a realistic calendar. But when you're single, that is a more realistic calendar that you can abide by. This wife gets that time, that wife gets this time, or that husband gets this time, and that husband. And it might not always be for sex, it might just be a date night. You see what I'm saying? Because there are many people who are unable to perform. So when I say really that this is my husband, but there is no performance because for whatever reasons there may be there, so that's our night. You can call it sex night, but sometimes that's not even what's really going on in the household. So we have to be aware when we say things like that. Oh, sex night. Yeah, it could be or it could not be. So we have to be respectful of the space and the time that is given because really, I think what we want more than anything is that person's time. You see, we want their time and we want their attention. So if you want to call that sex night, we can, we can definitely call it that, but that wouldn't always be the case. And my biggest thing coming up under Hebrew Israelites and Muslims would be that please ensure that your mate and your starseed have their own space. She needs her own house. He needs his own house. And that cuts back tension, that cuts back stress, and that cuts back any things that people certain have certain sexual proclivities you might not want to be aware of. You see, so when we say that, we have to realize that there are just certain things in reality that have nothing to do with sex. It's more about, I want your time and attention this day. You've been with wife number two for this long, this amount, and I know you need the children, need your attention, but it's time for me to have some attention. So when you create a calendar like that, it's more realistic. Like, you know, you won't see that spouse for so many days. You see what I'm saying? My
Mhm.
spouse know that they won't see me for so many days because I'm spending time with this spouse unless we're in the community hub. And when you're in a community hub, that's a different time, that's a different setting. But at night, when it's time to retire, that might be my time to spend my time with that spouse, or his time to spend his time with her.
Okay. So I'm glad you shared that because, again, I only knew it from TV, and we know that's not a real source. And I know in social media, some people have shared the polygamy, polyandry information, and it is something that I went on and skipped past and went to something else. It's not something I even got into before. Um, so I know when okay, so let's go here. Um, Polygamy, the man has multiple wives. Polyandry, the woman has multiple husbands. In each situation, what is the procedure for the selection of adding the husbands or wives into either relationship? Who has a say? Like, is there a main spouse and they select the additional spouses of that same gender, or is it a mutual between the first two? How is the procedure? What's the procedure for choosing additional partners?
It is the same thing as courting. When Because the wife has to get along with the sister wife, the husband has to get along with the brother husband. So we all should be courting each other. We should all be getting to know each other's families. So courting doesn't just end with the first two spouses. If you choose to bring on another spouse, the courting should also include that spouse's family and the family of the first two spouses, and make your families aware that you will be practicing polygamy or polyandry. So at this point, now you're in the courting process again. What does this new spouse bring to this current community? What do they bring financially? What do they bring educationally? Will more children be produced? You see, what kind of community are they bringing in? Because when you marry someone, you don't just marry them. You marry their family and you marry their community. You marry their friends. You see, so, and that's why I keep pushing that courting. When you're dating, you're having fun. And before you know it, you hooked up without knowing who's this person's community, who's this person's family, what is their background, what do they bring to this current community that we've already created? How can they make this foundation stronger? And we often don't see that because, like you said, we're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're dating. We're going to the movies. We haven't taken this person out into the community. We haven't found out what skills they have, because
Hmm.
a job is not a
If
skill.
any, if any.
Yeah, a job is not a skill. So not only do I make herb tinctures and salves, I grow my own herbs. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
skill. I can manifest some type of income. I teach. I can try to manifest some kind of. What skills are you coming with? You
Exactly.
see what I'm saying? A job is not a skill. Sometimes it is. If you're an electrician, that's a skill you can build within your community. There will be plenty of homes for you to build. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a mechanic, that's a skill. The community needs to be rolling. You see what I'm saying? So,
Right.
what skills is this person coming into the community with besides looks and sexual allure? A lot of people have that. What do you have beyond that that is going to build the community that is already here? Can
Mm.
you respect the children that are already part of this community? Because people want to have their children respected. Just like when you create children with this husband, she wants her children respected.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So we as women have to work on that selfishness because I know I'm a community mother and I don't care where children come from. My
Mm-hmm.
children have other children, siblings by their fathers, and those siblings know they can come to my home. They are safe here. I am never going to do anything. I will pull out my machete and make sure you make it home tonight. You understand me? So that's a part of the maturity we have to have as the adults of the community of a polygamous and a polyandry community. Am I going to respect the seeds of my husband that are not by me? Yes, I am. Because as inside, as outside, as above, as below, I want mine to make it home. They want theirs to make it home too. They want theirs to have a good night and know that this sister loves my this sister loves my seed. You
That's
see what
right.
I'm saying? She is serious. She's serious about educating them. She's serious about teaching them what they need to know. So these are the things that we can't see beyond the aspect of I ain't sharing. You see what I'm saying? When
Mm-hmm.
you talk about real community and nation building, there are there are so many powerful aspects to polyandry and polygamy when it's done respectively. When respect leaves, the community falls.
Mm-hmm.
When there's no respect, there's no community. When there's no respect and education, there's no nation. So
Yeah.
right now, we don't have a nation because we don't respect these parts of our beings. We're lying, we're cheating. We don't know how to sit down and say, hey, baby, I want to be polygamous. And
Yeah.
not just so I can get down, but because I want to build a community, because
Right.
I want to build a nation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the hardest part for our people to understand because, like I said, we've been trained to be monogamous. We've been trained to be, and
Mm-hmm.
we've come up through their school systems that defeat us. That it defeats us. We're being defeated left and right because we can't think outside the box. That square classroom,
Right.
those square seats that we've been put in to learn in. So it is bigger than the sexual aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what I want to say in response to what you just shared is, for myself, this a recap personally. Um, when it comes to polyandry or polygamy, so far still, and considering the makeup of our people, yet and still, I cannot do the events. I can, however, continue to support the children in the community because I do that. I've always done that. I've always, if necessary, I've always taken care of other children if needed. I've always supported other families in their households. I am one for building. I am one for bringing my talents to the table and sharing where necessary. And there is bartering at times. Sometimes the fiat crosses the table, but if and whenever necessary, and my talent, I will receive my cosmic currency in return. So, um, things like Cash App is not a goal of mine. It's not a highlight of my day. My PayPal account is not a highlight of my day. My cosmic currency is always with me, and I am always well taken care of. And I am quick to share those parts of me with others when it comes to building and continuing a nation. As far as sharing myself physically, sexually with anyone, that's like the last thing that hits the table for me. And that's my summary for the evening. And I don't right now have anything else to share. Mother Matriarch Salima, what do you have for us?
I'm sorry, could you give me a minute, Mama Matriarch?
Hmm. Okay.
Okay,
So,
there is nothing I can do but respect your your viewpoint, because like I said, we've already been conditioned.
hmm,
A lot of us have already been conditioned, and there's nothing wrong with that. My I think I'm really coming from this point of polygamy and polyandry. When we talk of nation building and building our communities,
hmm,
and someone who lives within my community, and I see single parents, what are called single parents. I do not like that term because none of us do anything by ourselves.
right.
We all have family members, and we often still have our uh, the mothers and fathers of our children who are very good parents. We just can't happen to get it along to live within the same household. With that being said, there are certain things when we say nation building, or we say building a community and building family, I'm more often speaking of future generations.
Hmm.
And we need to concentrate on the future generations. There's only so much that we can do. You There's only so much that we can do with who we are now, because we've already come through the system. We've already invested in the system. We have people that have already invested in that monogamous way of life. They've already invested in their colonialist education. They've got their degrees. You see, they've been working these jobs. So asking someone my age who could never do that, that's not what I'm really talking about. I'm talking about when I homeschool, I'm homeschooling future generations to think outside the box so that they won't be stagnant
Okay.
when it comes to building their community, to building their nation.
Hmm.
Because we often talk about nation building, and we are in a great time. The best thing that this country ever did was close down every damn school and make us responsible adults to educate our own children.
That's right.
So I teach my daughters and my sons all the time, listen, there ain't no such thing as me and mine. Because guess what? We've all been cheated on because we've had that attitude. And
Hmm.
we don't know how to approach or even instigate polygamy or polyandry. And when you don't have that foundation, you become stagnant. It was a great reverend, his name was Reverend Ike.
Yeah.
And he often quoted out of the Bible where people do not have innovative thoughts,
Hmm.
they die. They die from lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
They die for lack of thinking into the future.
Hmm.
Because what do you see our people as futuristically? When all of this is over, who will return to the slave master and who will create a new future? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing about polyandry. I don't think we take into, and polygamy, that we're really taking into account. That's right. Reverend Ike, I love that man. He knew things that other pastors won't even teach you about. Right now, all these pastors are teaching our people the money gospel.
Right.
Now, Reverend Ike did it too, but he knew
Yes.
something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
He knew about manifestation. And that's important because when I sit down to create curriculum, when I sit down to make medicine, when I'm on that farm working in 90-degree weather, and it's been 90 degrees in Michigan, I was on the farm yesterday, and I'm telling you, I came home like it's a pack of noodles. Good night.
Oh.
My kids don't even look at me. I work so hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, I'm creating for these future generations.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so it's not so much in the get to the people of today to change their mind. That's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
The point is to get the future generations to understand that that's not realistic. Uh, Monogamy is not realistic. It has not worked. I live in my community. It has been ravaged by the colonialist education system and wanting to practice monogamy, but yet we're not successful at practicing monogamy.
Right.
So there has to be at some point where we have to make the connection that we're not good at monogamy. I wasn't good at monogamy. You see what I'm saying? And not for lack of trying, but I just was not good at it. I was not a successful woman at practicing monogamy. I was better at practicing polygamy.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so I need that to make sure that my community goes forward, that my daughters understand you don't have to be worried about being cheated on if you can relax what the colonialists are going to tell you, which is nation building, because they do it too. They cheat all the time. They put it on TV. They got all these reality shows. When you look at so-called white television,
Mm-hmm.
they do it too. They put their business out there. So does monogamy really work? You see what I'm saying? Would you have been able to stay with your Baba if you had had another spouse? You see what I'm saying? Because we do grow apart as people. We are on different pages as people. We had the Baba on the night we did the matriarch build, and he was talking about he was becoming more enlightening, and it was a bit of a wedge between him and his queen.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm
Right.
not encouraging him to go out and get another queen, but if we can't deal with each other in a monogamous setting, when one partner is growing this way and we have another partner growing this way, or one partner is still stagnant, how do we deal with that in a
Mm-hmm.
monogamous setting? Because often we don't deal with those situations successfully. And you have to believe that the other partners within the polygamous and polyandry relationship are not there to tear you apart. They're there to build you up and keep you together. They're
Mm-hmm.
there to give you the insight you might not have just these four eyes. You look in your situation, she in her situation, and all you see is yourself growing apart. Whereas you have those other polygamous partners that can help you grow together, or they can
Right.
help take the tension off of one feeling like you got to be this way, you got to be this way. But I wasn't that way when you met me. People change all the time, so we have to learn to grow, and we have a problem doing that in monogamous relationships. So how do we grow in monogamy when we don't? How, you see, it hasn't worked. That's just the best way I can tell you that it has not worked. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not based on my experience. That's me looking at my community. My mother loved my father, but that monogamous relationship did not work. He wanted her to be home, to be faithful, to have children, but he wanted to be out and have other partners. You see what I'm saying? So he obviously wanted to practice polygamy, But at some point, it doesn't work when there's lying and cheated. When people are being lied to and cheated on, there's a disrespect where they're not willing to stay. So there goes the monogamous relationship out the window. The
Right.
same goes for men. When they have these women, they love these women, they have children with them, but there's lying and cheating going on. How much of that are you willing to put up with? There's a disrespect, and now there's a breakdown of the family nucleus because the monogamy isn't working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have anything that you want the audience to know before we leave today?
Yes, take the time to make a pros and cons list of polygamy, polyandry, and monogamy, and really write down the pros and cons, like everything it entails economically, when it comes to rearing children, when it comes to creating a community, and when it comes to nation building. Really write down the pros and cons and think about what you've been through as a woman and as a man trying to practice monogamy, and go past just the sex act of polygamy and polyandry. Go past that. There's more to polygamy and polyandry besides the sex act. And I just want to thank you again, Matriarch Joy, for having me and building on issues that it's past time for our people to start recognizing that is we can make our own, we can create our own paths, and this is the time. So I want to thank you for having me again tonight, and I hope it was enlightening for someone out there who wants to, understand the true nature of polygamy and polyandry, not just the sex aspect, the whole aspect of what it entails.
For sure. Because that's the primary underlying issue here. One of them. So if you would, before we leave, tell everyone again who you are and where they could find you.
My name is Salima Ellis. People call me Mama Salima. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm always making videos of my own also. And you can also find my school, Universal Mind School of Evolution. Please give that a look. I have some curriculum up there. I ask fantastic questions, something you might want to include when you're homeschooling your children. Also, you can find my Pattern Masters page on Facebook, where I post videos like these to put together the pattern of your life. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here. I appreciate everyone for being here. Gratitude to you all. I see some of the master students have joined us tonight as well, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Once more, I am your hostess, Joy Allen. You can contact me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Karma Did What, so look that up. Join that group. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MKDTNT. And you can always check out some of my videos on YouTube, the Memoirs of a Karmic Dynasty. And again, I want to speak peace, wellness, and wholeness. And you all just are beautiful, simply. Now, I ain't gonna say simply. You are masterfully beautiful, and I appreciate everyone. Peace to you all.
Peace and
Until
love.
next.